بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا مولانا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك وعلمنا من لدنك علما ينفعنا في الدين والدنيا يا كريم. أما بعد, praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may peace and blessings be upon Abdul-Rahman Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah, we finished Salah and Janaiz. And inshallah ta'ala today we're going to study half of the book of Zakat. And Zakat is one of the rulings that is highly neglected when it comes into people's knowledge and understanding on what they study. A lot of Muslims don't know much about Zakat. And the maximum they know about Zakat would be basically the Zakat they give on their annual income. But other than that, there's so many different types of Zakat that are not known to people. And your annual income is only, like I said, one type of Zakat that is studied in fiqh, but there are many other types that we must understand as Muslims. Some of us might be in a situation where we own and we have crops and farms, for example. And so some of us might be in a situation where they have a farm, they have animals, they have livestock. A lot of people in Australia own farms. It's one of the countries that have the most farming in the world. Can I please ask everyone to mute the microphone, please? To mute the microphone. Okay, so Australia is one of the countries where a lot of Muslims own farms. A lot of the farmers don't even think that there would be Zakat on their crops or on the sheep they own, or anything like that. Even the Zakat in these things are even more important than the Zakat of money. So we should understand these rulings so that if we ever fall into the situation that we own some of these things, or we ever come across someone who doesn't know these rulings, we mention them and tell them these rulings. So inshallah, we'll start with what the author rahimahullah says, but the first part is just the definition of zakat. So he says, كتاب الزكاة تجب الزكاة في 5 أشياء وهي المواشي والأثمان والزروع والثمار وعروض التجارة. فأما المواشي فتجب الزكاة في 3 أجناس منها وهي الإبل والبقر والغنم، وشرائط وجوبها 6 أشياء: الإسلام والحرية والملك التام والنصاب والحول والسوم.
Properties on which Zakat is obligatory. Zakat is obligatory on 5 types of property. Number 1, livestock. Number 2, money. Number 3, agriculture. Number 4, fruit. And number 5, trade goods. Livestock. Zakat is obligatory on 3 types of livestock: camels, cows, and sheep and goats. It's obligatory when 6 conditions are met: that the owner A is a Muslim, B is free, C possesses complete ownership, D possesses the minimum amount nisab, E year, and F that the animals are grazed on herbage that grows without human intervention.
Okay, so the scholars, they begin with Kitab al-Zakat. They begin with the rules of Zakat before talking about fasting, siyam, before talking about Hajj. Although these 2 pillars are considered more important in Islam, because the famous hadith that Rasulullah taught us when he mentioned the pillars of Islam are mentioned in this order. So Shahada, then Salah, then Zakat, then Siyam, and then Hajj. So generally, Zakat is not as important as fasting and Hajj, but it's mentioned first because of this hadith. And like we mentioned in the first class of fiqh, that generally the books of fiqh are all built on this hadith when it comes into the ibadat, the acts of worship. When it comes into the mu'amalat, the interactions, then they organize it in a different way. Now, another reason that zakat is mentioned earlier is that the people who must pay zakat, or whose zakat is compulsory upon their wealth, are more than the people who need to fast and need to do Hajj. So in Islam, it's compulsory for us to take zakat from the money of any Muslim who fulfills the conditions of zakat. Even if that person is a young little kid, hasn't reached the age of puberty, or the person is not in their full mind. They don't need to pay zakat, there's no sin on them if they don't, but the person in charge of them needs to take the zakat yearly out of their money and give it to the people in charge of distributing zakat. So the amount of people who need to pay zakat are more than the amount of people who need to fast and do hajj. We know in hajj, if you don't have the ability to do hajj, you never have to do hajj in your whole entire life, and you don't need to pay anything to compensate that in hajj. Fasting, if you can't fast, all you need to do is to feed a poor person. So generally, zakat is more widespread in Islam. That's why we start with it and we focus on it a lot. Now, another important thing to know here is that if someone refuses to pay zakat, so if someone has the money zakat must be paid upon, and he's eligible for zakat and doesn't pay it, the imam or the governor of that area sends someone to force him and take the money off him. So zakat is very important, and it's a very strict ruling to the extent that someone could be forced into paying it. You can't force anyone to fast or to do hajj because their intention wouldn't be correct. With zakat, you can force the person and take the money off them, but this is something that the imam or the leader of that area would be in charge of, and not every individual would have to do that, of course. Now, before we go into the details, what is the definition of zakat? Whenever we start a new book, the definition of that act of worship is very important. So, the definition of zakat in Arabic is مال مخصوص يؤخذ من طائر مخصوص على وجه مخصوص ويعطى لأناس مخصوصين. So, specific money, not any money, specific wealth or specific money that is extracted on behalf of specific wealth. So we have a lot of different things that we own. These are all our wealth, and a specific part of it is extracted. So specific wealth or money that is extracted on behalf of specific wealth or on behalf of a specific body. A specific body. That's the Zakat al-Fitr, Ramadan, okay? From specific people. Not everyone has to pay zakat, yeah? Only the ones who are rich. Someone doesn't own money, they don't have to pay zakat. So specific money that's extracted on behalf of specific wealth or a specific body from specific people at a specific time. Zakat is taken once a year. Not every single day you have to pay zakat. And given to specific people. Okay, that is the definition of zakat. So it's a specific type of money that is taken from specific type of people for a specific reason at a specific time of the year and given to specific people. That's what zakat is. Okay. Now, zakat is two main types. So if we were to draw, a template, you have zakat on top, and then you have two types of zakat. The first type is zakat on behalf of the body. And zakat on behalf of your body is zakat al-fitr. Zakat al-fitr. The zakat that you pay on the last day of Ramadan. Or you pay in Ramadan. Or you pay before Salat al-Eid. This is not on behalf of wealth, but it's on behalf of your body. So every single body has zakat paid for it. And that's why the owner or the person in charge of the household would pay zakat on behalf of everyone in the household, according to the number of heads in the family. And there's conditions for this that we'll come to in the next class, inshallah ta'ala. The second type is zakat on behalf of your wealth, of what you own. Okay? And this is 4 types. So there's 4 types of wealth that you pay zakat on. The first one is what is known as al-thaman, or money, or gold and silver. Okay? So physical money, that's the first type of zakat. If someone has a certain amount of money for a whole year, they have to pay zakat on it. The second type is livestock. Livestock. What is livestock? What does that include? Does it include kangaroos, horses? In Shafi'i madhab we can eat horses, yeah? It's halal. Do we pay zakat on them? We don't, yeah? So livestock is 4 things. It's really 3 in Arabic. In Arabic they say baqar, ghanam and ibn. So ibn means camels, baqar means cows, and then ghanam in Arabic, okay, means 2 types, sheep and goats. So sheep and goats in Arabic are considered the same, basically the same type of animal. So, sorry, shah, not ghanam, yeah, shah. The second type, or the third type is fruit and vegetables. Okay, fruit and vegetables, or crops, or agriculture. And zakat is paid mostly on crops, and only 2 types of fruit are zakat eligible, which is dates and grapes. Okay, that's it. Anyway, other than that, crops. So crops that are sustainable, that you can live off. We'll go into that inshallah later on. Not every single vegetable needs to have zakat paid on it. And the last one is merchandise. So whatever you trade with. If someone's into trading, whatever they trade with, you must pay zakat upon. But in this type of zakat, in merchandise, you don't take out from your merchandise and give it in zakat, but you give the value of that in zakat. So that's the only type of zakat in the Shafi'i madhab that you can pay the value of. The rest of zakat in our madhab, you need to pay physically a part of that thing. So even zakat al-fitr, you can't just pay $10 or $15 according to the madhab, but you have to give food to the poor people. Alright, so in that case, sometimes we follow a different opinion, or we ask someone in another country to give it on our behalf. But generally, zakat should be given from the money itself. Okay. Now, all of these types of zakat that we have done, there are conditions for all of these types to be compulsory. So these conditions apply to the person giving zakat, whether it's zakat of money, zakat of crops, zakat of animals. The same conditions apply. Okay. Number 1, Islam. So if the person is not Muslim, they don't need to pay zakat. Okay, meaning that the imam cannot go and ask them to give their money in zakat. Although non-Muslims need to pay zakat in the hereafter, they will be questioned for not paying zakat, but the condition for them to pay zakat is to become Muslim first and then pay zakat. When someone accepts Islam, they don't need to pay for the years past. Khalas, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives it for them. So Islam is the first condition. The second condition is freedom. So back in the days when people used to be able to own other people, when there was slavery, okay, a slave doesn't need to pay zakat at all, because a slave is owned himself. And the only type of slave that needs to pay zakat is what is known in fiqh as al-muba'ad. He's part free and part a slave. So part of him is owned and part of him is free. That's the slave who needs to pay zakat according to the part of him that is free. Okay, the third condition is to have full ownership of the category that you are paying zakat upon. So there's no zakat on general land that no one owns. No zakat on crops that grow in the wild. Okay? No one needs to pay zakat on these things. You have to have a full ownership of the thing that you are paying zakat on. And inshallah, we'll go into detail this later on, inshallah ta'ala. Now, it's important after these are 3 main conditions. There's another condition we're going to mention soon, inshallah ta'ala, but before we go into it, like I mentioned, the money of a young child is considered fully owned by the young child. So the condition is to fully own what you have. How can we ask a young child to pay zakat upon his money when he can't even go and buy and do things? In the Shafi'i madhab, a young kid can't just go and use his money for whatever he wants. Okay? The answer is that he still owns that money, but there's an extra condition for the person to go and buy and sell. So money of a young child is considered fully owned by them. And their guardian is told to give zakat from that money. And the same thing applies to someone who is not in their mind. The guardian must take from their money and give it in zakat. Also, another important thing for everyone to understand is that if someone has a debt that they have to pay you back, someone took a loan from you, zakat is compulsory in that money as well. Okay? Because it's fully owned by you. Just because someone is holding it back doesn't mean it's not owned by you. And if you can't get it back, if they're not giving it back to you, then the moment they give it back, you have to pay zakat on it. So say the time in the year that you pay zakat has approached, and the person who took a debt from you hasn't given back to you yet, you can pay zakat on whatever you have, and the moment they pay you back, then you need to pay zakat on that money that you received. And let's say the person withheld that money for 2 or 3 years, you have to pay zakat of 2 or 3 years on that money. So every year, zakat would be counted. Okay, the fourth condition is that the owner of the wealth is a specific individual. The owner of the wealth that we take zakat from is a specific person. So in Islam, we have something known as al-waqf. Al-waqf means an ongoing charity, basically. A charity that everyone can benefit from. It's not owned by a specific person. Okay? The money that comes out of the ongoing charity of a waqf, okay, isn't owned by a specific individual. So zakat has to be paid on money that is owned by specific people. Okay. So the first type of zakat that we talk about, inshallah, is zakat on livestock. Zakat on livestock. And that's the first type that Abu Shujā mentioned in his book. Like I said, livestock is camels, cow, sheep, or goats. The conditions for paying zakat on livestock are 4. There's 4 conditions specific to livestock. After the conditions that we mentioned this before, after the general conditions. Number 1, for the livestock to reach the minimum amount of zakat, which is known in Arabic as, what's it called?
Nisab.
Nisab, yes, as an-nisab. Nisab in Arabic means the percent. So the minimum amount that is zakat eligible is a condition for zakat to be compulsory. If someone owns 1 camel, they don't need to pay zakat on that. If you own 2 or 3 camels, the same thing. You don't need to start paying zakat until you own 5 camels, for example. Okay? And in every different section, there's different conditions for this. But in livestock, every single type of livestock needs to reach the minimum amount of zakat. Okay. Number 2, for an entire year to pass, while the minimum amount of that category is possessed by you. So for 1 year to pass while that minimum amount is still under your ownership. And years mean lunar years, of course. Okay. The third condition is that the livestock are grazed for the entire year. So if someone feeds their animals, they've got a farm, okay, and they provide hay and food and drink every day for the animal, there's no zakat on these animals. That's it, khalas. Most farms today, I don't know, do they feed animals or they just eat from the grass? They feed them, yeah? Let's say they feed them 50% of the time. 60% of the time, there's no zakat on it. Okay? And the only time we can consider a fed animal zakat eligible is if that animal was only fed for a small amount of time that it couldn't live on. So let's say the person fed the animal 1 day in the year, or 1 meal in the year. The animal can't live on that. Or if the person fed the animal for enough for it to live but be extremely weak and ill. So they just gave it, just enough to make it not die. That animal is really dependent on the rest of the food that they get. The extra grass that it eats, so it would still be zakat eligible. Okay, and the fourth condition is for the animal not to be used for work. Okay, so someone has a cow I think in a lot of countries, cows are used to dig the ground. Someone has a cow that they use just to work, but it's not sitting there and just being fed. Then you don't need to pay zakat on that animal. Okay, inshallah, these are the conditions for livestock, okay? The details of livestock we're going to get into later on, inshallah. This is just the conditions. So now we're trying to get and understand what types of money we need to pay zakat on. After that, Abu Shujā says, وَأَمَّا الْأَثْمَانِ فَشَيْئَانِ الذهب والفضة وشرائط وجوب الزكاة فيها 5 أشياء الإسلام والحرية والملك التام والنصاب والحول. بسم الله.
بسم الله. Zakat is obligatory on 2 types of money. Number 1, gold, and number 2, silver. It is obligatory when 5 conditions are met. The owner must A. be a Muslim, B. be free, C. possess complete ownership, D. possess the minimal amount, and E. year.
Okay. According to Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, money or wealth means gold and silver. So not every single thing that people use to trade with is considered money. A lot of what people consider money is fake money, basically. So gold and silver are the types of money that people need to pay zakat upon. Now, the conditions for zakat of gold and silver are, number 1, ownership for the entire year. So you own that money for an entire year, just like livestock. The second condition is for the money to reach the minimum amount, or the nisab, for an entire year. What is the nisab of gold? Gold?
1.25%.
No. How much gold do you have to have to be zakat eligible? Yeah?
It's around 78.
85 grams of pure gold. Pure gold with no other metal added to it. So all the types of gold that we have today are not pure. They're all mixed with other metal in it. So you have to have pure gold, or you have to be able to count the amount of pure gold that you have in order for you to consider it gold. Pure gold doesn't really exist anywhere unless you're digging up gold and going gold hunting. So you can't consider every single gram of gold that you own pure. 85 grams of pure gold, I think, how much does that cost in money? I think it's like 7,000-8,000, something like that. Something like that. Okay, or 594 grams of pure silver. 594 grams of silver, or 85 grams of gold. That's about the amount of money that you have to pay zakat.
What about like banknotes?
Okay. The third thing is for this gold or silver not to be jewelry that is permissible to wear. Okay. So jewelry is two types. Jewelry that's haram to wear, okay? Or disliked to wear. Okay, if a man decides to have a golden necklace and earrings or silver, is that permissible to wear? It's not permissible to wear. They have to pay zakat on it if they own it. Okay, because it's haram. But if a lady decides to have, inshallah, 10 kilos of gold that she wears, okay, she doesn't have to pay zakat on it. Why? Because she uses it to wear. She uses it to wear. Permissible gold that you wear isn't considered money. Money is something that adds to your wealth. Okay, that adds to your wealth. So you could trade with it if you wanted to. You don't use it for trade. You just own it. But if you wanted to, it's considered money, wealth. You're considered rich just because you own it. A lot of poor people in some countries own gold and silver. Yes, like the ladies would have gold necklaces and earrings and stuff because everyone has them, and they're very poor, but they still own gold. Maybe 85 grams of gold. Yeah, and they wouldn't sell it. It's a selling the gold would be like the worst thing that could happen to someone. They have to sell their gold. So the third condition is for it not to be permissible to wear. Okay. What about banknotes? Do we have to pay zakat on banknotes? Okay. Now, banknotes until the time of was it Nixon? President of America?
Yeah, Nixon.
Yes, used to be equivalent to an amount of gold and silver. So if you go to the bank, they would give you, like you give them $1, they'll give you a piece of gold on behalf of that, yeah? But after, or since he was in power, he changed the whole economic status of the world, and he deleted, or he basically cancelled the concept of gold and silver. So banknotes now, what do they represent? The economy of the country, let's say, okay? That could be gold, silver, it could be petrol, it could be the trade market. All of these things are represented by the banknotes that we have. So it doesn't represent gold and silver anymore. Okay? So according to that, okay, we say it's better and safer to give zakat, especially because all the other madhahib make it compulsory, or most of them make it compulsory, especially the Maliki and Hanafi madhab. But it's not 100% crystal clear that zakat is compulsory in banknotes. Yeah. Okay. After that, Abu Shujā rahimahullah says, وَأَمَّا الزُّرُوعُ فتجب الزكاة فيها بثلاثة شرائط أن يكون مما يزرعه الآدميون وأن يكون قوتا مدخرا وأن يكون نصابا وهو 5 أوسق لا قشر عليها. وأما الثمار فتجب الزكاة في شيئين منها ثمرة النخل وثمرة الكرم والشرائط وجوب الزكاة فيها 4 أشياء: الإسلام والحرية والملك التام والنصاب.
Agriculture. Zakat from agriculture is obligatory when the crops fulfill 3 conditions. The crops must be A. sown by humans, B. staple food crops, and C. the minimum amount 5 al-suq, 609.84 kilograms or 1,344.5 pounds, devoid of the outer husk or shell. Fruit. Zakat is obligatory on 2 types of fruits, dates and grapes. Zakat is obligatory on fruits when 4 conditions are met. The owner must be A. a Muslim, B. be free, C. have complete ownership, and D. possess the minimum amount.
Okay. Zakat on agriculture. So like we mentioned, there's 2 types of agriculture that we need to pay zakat on. Number 1, zuru', which is translated as crops, and number 2 is thimar, which is translated as fruit. So zuru' and thimar. Now, regarding fruit, only 2 types of fruit are zakat eligible: grapes and dates. Dates are dried and they turn into a food that can be lived off, basically, and grapes turn into raisins or sultanas, and that's also similar to a date, it's sustainable. But there's no zakat on apples, pears, peaches, figs, any of these things, there's no zakat on them. Only grapes and dates. Regarding the rest of the crops, okay, they must be a grain, not any crop, they must be grain, and be sustainable. Sustainable means qut in Arabic, qut, qaf, waw, ta, something you can live off, okay? And the definition of qut is that the body can function on these things, while people generally choose to eat them, okay? So they're not forced to eat them. Some things you can function on, but you would only eat it if you were forced to, if you're about to die. That's not what we're talking about here. But grains and foods that could be, a staple, people could live off, and they would choose to eat these kind of things, like rice and those kind of things. Examples of qut, of grains that are sustainable, that we must pay zakat upon, are rice, wheat, chickpeas, lentil, fava beans, ful, and barley. So these things are things that people could live off, basically. They dry them and they keep them for years. The things that are not zakat eligible, that you could maybe eat but they're not zakat eligible, they're not qut, would be spices. Okay. Anyone from India here? India? No? In India, some people, they live off spices, yeah? They eat them as like a snack, yeah? You don't have to pay zakat on that. Okay? Flaxseed. In Arabic, they call it budur tattan. It was very famous back in the day. Now only healthy people eat it, but it used to be famous. Okay? Black seed also, habba soda, habbat al-baraka, and sesame seed. These things you could eat. You could probably live off them. You might get ill, but you could live off them. You don't have to pay zakat on these things. Okay? The conditions for zakat on agriculture are: number one, nisab, to reach the minimum amount, which is 5 awsuq. What's a wasaq? It's an old measurement, okay? And I'm not going to say what the author just translated into there. The author said it's 600 or something kilos, yeah? Wasaq is not a weight. It's a measurement, okay? So it was like basically a container that was famous back in the day. And the scholars say a wasaq is 60 sa'. What's a sa'? Sa' is 4 muds, 4 large handfuls. That's a sa'. Okay? So a sa', how many liters of a sa' is? Have you ever seen a sa' before?
I didn't say 0.5, something like that, half.
It's quite big. It's pretty large container, yeah? 60 of them, okay, is 5 awsuq. Is how much? 5 awsuq. 5 awsuq is 60 sa'. 5 awsuq is 60 sa'. No, 5 is 60, okay? Okay? So it differs depending on fruit, on the weight of the fruit or the crop, but generally it would be around 600 kilograms, generally. Let's say kilograms of rice, I think it's over 600 kilograms, but say it's from 600 to 700 kilograms. That is about the amount you have to own to pay zakat on. So someone has to have a lot of rice, a lot of wheat, a lot of barley to pay zakat on. But if you own 20, 30 kilograms, you don't need to pay zakat on that. Okay. This amount is only counted after removing the dirt and the weeds from it. Also, the amount is only counted after it is dried. After it's dried. Okay? So dried dates or raisins, but not grapes. You don't weigh the grapes and pay zakat on them. No. You dry it first. Okay? And the shell of the grains needs to be removed. So some grains have a coating, a shell on the outside. Okay? And you don't eat that shell. You eat the actual grain inside, the shell is removed. So what you eat is what you pay zakat on. What you eat. The second condition is for mankind to plant these kind of crops or agriculture. So if it just grows by itself, you don't need to pay zakat on it. But if you plant it, you are the one who is putting effort into it, then zakat is paid on it. And the third is to only pay zakat on it once the produce is ripe and ready to be harvested. So it's only compulsory once it reaches the stage that it's ripe, that it's ready to be harvested. Some crops, they start to grow and they're very weak. Okay, so let's say if it's a grain, the outside will become stiff. When the grain is stiff, then it means it's ripe, it's ready. And when the fruit is ripe, of course, the color of it would change usually, or it would be, juicy basically. So this is a condition for zakat to be paid. Before that, you don't need to pay any zakat. So once we have these conditions, we can pick the fruit and vegetable, keep it on the side, and wait for it to dry, and we only pay zakat once it's dry. But before it becomes ripe, you don't even need to pay zakat on it at all. Yeah? You don't need to pay zakat on it at all. Okay.
Can I ask a question? So someone has planted grapes, but then they sold them before they became raisins. You don't need to pay anything on them.
If they sold avocados before they ripen.
There's no good zakat on avocados.
Oh, yeah. It's a good question.
Okay. أبو شجاع رحمه الله says وأما عروض التجارة فتجب الزكاة فيها بالشرائط المذكورة في الأثمان. I'll just read this in English inshallah. Zakat is obligatory on trade goods according to the conditions mentioned for money. So the last category is merchandise or trade goods. And the conditions for zakat on this is for the trade good or the merchandise not to be gold or silver. If you're trading in gold and silver, okay, so someone has an exchange shop, okay. Back in the day, gold and silver used to be carved into different pieces of money, different types of coins. And just like now, if you go to any country, if you want to change the currency, you go to the shops and they'll give you the other currency. Similar thing used to happen, okay? So, I think it was Ibn Suraj, one of the greatest Shafi'i scholars, he said, بَشِّرِ السَّيَارِفَ أَنْ لَا زَكَاةَ عَلَيْهِ. Give glad tidings to the people who work in exchanging that they never have to pay zakat their whole entire life. Why? Because although they own gold and silver, all they're doing is they're taking money from someone and giving it to another person. So their money is never stable. Okay? Trading in gold and silver is not, okay, zakat eligible, although if their gold and silver, the amount they have, fits under the conditions of gold and silver, and the amount, and is there for a year, then they have to pay zakat on that. But just because they're trading in it, it's not zakat eligible from the beginning. Okay. Modern day currency, the scholars say, okay, if used in trade, you need to pay zakat. So modern day currency, banknotes, if you're trading with, then that's inshallah definitely zakat eligible. Like I said, if you own money, there's a bit of hesitance around that. But if you're trading with money, then you pay zakat on that, because anything that you trade with is zakat eligible. Whether it's money, whether it's livestock, whether it's cars, whether houses, yeah, depending, as long as the conditions of zakat is there. Okay, the second condition is the intention of trading with the goods that you own. So if you have a lot of wealth, you've got 10 villas and mashallah, 5, 6 different cars, and you could trade with them, but you don't intend to trade with them right now, okay, you don't need to pay zakat on them. The intention of zakat of trading must be there. So there's no zakat on houses that are owned with the intention to rent. If you have 1 million houses, but you're just renting them, you're not trading with them, you're not buying and selling, you don't need to pay zakat on them at all. Okay? The outcome of the houses, you might pay zakat on. If you're getting, a lot of money from that, then you might pay the zakat of money on the houses. But The house itself, you don't need to pay zakat on as long as you're not selling it. Okay. The third condition is that the intention of trading is there when you own it. So when you buy it, you intend to trade with it from the beginning. So the intention itself is not enough, but you intend to trade with it. You buy merchandise with the intention to trade with that merchandise. That's when you have to pay zakat on it. And the fourth condition is that these goods are owned through a transaction. So if you are sitting there and you just inherit them, you don't have to pay zakat on them. Okay, but you have to own it through a transaction. So you buy them, or you give something on behalf of them. And the fifth condition is for 1 year to pass from the ownership of the merchandise. 1 year to pass. Now here we notice one thing, and that is that we didn't mention the minimum amount to be there for 1 year. And the reason of that is that the zakat on trade is a little bit different. If you own merchandise that is zakat eligible, okay, you only look at the nisab at the end of the year. And even if it's fluctuated throughout the year, you still pay zakat on it. Wealth is different. You have to have the minimum amount for a whole entire year. Animals, the same thing. You have to have the minimum amount for a whole entire year. Yeah. On this, if the amount fluctuates, because that's how trade works, yeah, it's okay as long as you owned the merchandise or let's say the basic part of it for a year, and then the end of the year it had reached an amount that was zakat eligible. Now the way you give zakat on merchandise is that in the end of the year, you count everything you have, all your merchandise, okay? And see if the value reaches the amount of zakat based on the money it was purchased with. So they say back in the days, there would either be gold or silver. You would buy these things with gold or you buy them with silver. Okay, so if you bought it with gold, you would have to reach 85 grams of gold in value. If it was bought with silver, it would have to reach 594 grams of silver. And then 2.5% is given in zakat. Details of this is mentioned in larger books of fiqh, but this is just basic, background on this. Okay. Any question before going to the details of the other types of zakat? In the group?
Can I also ask a question about the fruits? So like dates,
all the questions about any of the types that we mentioned.
like dates, like fresh dates.
Yes.
When they harvest them, if they are sold prior to them being dried,
yes.
So how it's like fresh. Is that
so? Fresh dates is what is known as rotab. You know when they're
yellow?
The yellow basically, or they're very very soft. Yeah, that's fresh dates. But most of the dates you have in Australia are old.
Right.
I don't know. I haven't been to the market that much, but anyway, fresh dates.
Yeah.
There's no zakat on fresh dates until they dry. Okay. The zakat is compulsory on them once they're ripe, but you don't have to pay it. You have to give zakat until they dry.
Okay.
Yeah, but it becomes compulsory when they're ripe. Okay. Question here says, why doesn't chickens or horses count as livestock? So basically, in Arabic, the word bahimatul an'am, is specific for these types of animals. Other animals aren't considered wealth in a way that Arabs would consider you to be rich. Now, a lot of countries, even Africa, if someone wants to get married, they'll give them 50 or 30 cows. Yeah. So these types of animals that you can, people use as a source of food and milk and wool. These kinds of animals are different and more unique to chickens or ducks or other types of animals that we can still eat. And in a lot of countries, chickens, ducks, rabbits, these are more like a delicacy. Don't eat them every day. And the only reason the chicken has become so famous is because of the mass production. But just maybe 67 years ago, people wouldn't eat chicken much. It doesn't grow that fast. Yeah? But these animals would be wealth. If you have like one cow, and 3-4 sheep, you could live and be sustainable for the rest of your life. So these are the things that we pay zakat on. If someone's only source of money is centering, okay, is zakat obligatory to them? Is centering money still considered fully owned by them? So if you get money from now, this answer is according to us saying that zakat needs to be paid on banknotes, on modern currency. If we say that it is compulsory, then what about centering? If you receive money from the government and they give it to you and you own it 100%, it enters your ownership, then whether you receive it from a government or from a person, it's yours. It's fully owned. Is a farmer utilizing robots to plant crops automatically considered making them mankind planting them? Okay. I don't think anyone would use a robot to plant crops.
And the bigger farms
They use robots to plant crops.
tractors. Technology.
Tractors, yeah, but the person is driving the tractor.
Yeah.
So you're using a shovel, using a tractor, but
The tractor puts the seed in the ground.
It's automated.
mm.
Can be
Some are
automated.
automated.
Yeah, like they use like AI or what, and like
Very nice
press it
farms,
down.
you can have like automated.
So like it's
GPS
not
control.
human operated, so you just get it it'll done automatically by itself.
Like watering the plants, for example.
Yeah, but does the person have anything to do with planting them? Do they grow themselves alone?
You program it.
Yeah, you have like a program that sort of gets run a cycle each day for it to sort of plant and water the crops. So you don't have it doesn't have human interaction with it other than
The human's
Coding
not
it.
piloting the vehicle, it
Yeah.
just travels around using like GPS and then it comes back.
Yeah, but you're the one who generates the program basically or starts it
Yeah.
into the plane. Yeah. So my understanding is that yes, you still have basic zakat on it because they say أن يتولى أسباب نباته الآدميون, that mankind are the ones who would interfere with it being planted basically. Wallahu a'lam. Wallahu a'lam. It's very interesting. Okay. Okay, let's go into camels. The details of camels. So we know the conditions now. Inshallah, I might try to send the presentation in the group, inshallah, so we can just read these slides because it's important. If one owns 5 camels, okay, your zakat starts from 5 camels. If you own 5 camels, you need to give 1 sheep or goat in zakat, not a camel. Sheep or goat. So if you have 5 camels, you don't give zakat from the camels. Okay, you go get a sheep and you give that in zakat. Why? Because camels are very expensive. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to ask you, if you only have 5 camels, to give one of that's 1/5 of your money. Yeah, it's a huge amount. And camels, it takes a lot of time to grow them up and to raise them. If you own 10 camels, you give 2 sheep in zakat. If you own 15 camels, 3 sheep in zakat. If you own 20 camels, you give 4 sheep in zakat. Okay? From 25 camels, zakat from camels start. Okay, so you give a camel in zakat from 25 onwards. Under than 25 camels, in every 5 camels, you give 1 sheep in zakat. Okay, the conditions to this sheep you can find in larger books of fiqh. This is just, we're just going to try to go over the basic details. So, if you have 25 camels, you need to give 1 camel in charity. And this camel must be a she camel. That is known as Bintu Makhad. Bintu Makhad. Okay? Meaning that the camel has lived for an entire year, for 1 lunar year, and began its 2nd year. Okay? If you can't find this camel, you can give a different type of camel, like a male camel, a camel that has 2 years or 3 years. But generally, what is compulsory, if you have it, and if you can find it, is a camel that has 1 year of age, and it should be a female camel. Okay. From 25 to 35, all you have to give is 1 camel in zakat that has lived for 1 year. From 25 to 35. Once you reach 36, okay, then you need to give a camel in zakat, but the camel you have to give is called Bint Laboon, okay, which means it's a she camel that has completed 2 years and started the 3rd year. So the older the camel grows, the more value it has, okay. If you own 46 camels, so another 10, we're going in tens, okay, then you must give a hiqqah. A hiqqah is a camel that's lived for 3 years and began its 4th year, okay. And there's no zakat no more zakat until you reach 61 camels. If you have 61 camels, you give bintu makhab, which is a 4-year-old camel, okay. So we have sheep, 2 sheep, 3 sheep, 4 sheep. Then we have a 1-year-old camel, 2-year-old camel, 3-year-old camel, 4-year-old camel. 61 camels. Okay. After that, there's no zakat until you reach 76. When you have 76 camels, you give 2. Okay. You give 2. Bint Laboon. 2 1-year-old camels. 2 1-year-old camels when you reach 76. And when you reach 91, you give 2 hiqqas. Which one's a hiqqa? 3-year-old camels. Okay? And when you reach 121, you give 3 Bint Laboons. And after that, every 40 camels you give 1 Bint Laboon, and every 50 camels you give 1 hiqqa.
There's one word that you, it says on 61 Jatha'ah. You said Bint Laboon.
It's 4-year-old.
61. So after hiqqa, 61 what do you give?
Yes, okay. Okay. Okay, zakat on cows. Abu Shujā rahimahullah says, zakat on cows. Abu Shujā rahimahullah says, فصل وأول نصاب البقر 30 وفيها تبيع وفي كل 40 مسنة وعلى هذا أبدا فقس. Okay.
The minimum number of cows is 30, on which the obligatory zakat is 1 tabi'. On 40, there is 1 musinna. Other cases are calculated similarly.
Okay. So cows is very simple. You don't need to pay any zakat on a cow until you have 30 cows. So you have 30 cows. Now, a tabi' is a name for a male cow, okay, that has lived for 1 year and entered its 2nd year. Tabi' is a male cow that's lived for 1 year and entered its 2nd year. Okay? And a tabi'ah is a female cow that's lived for 1 year and entered its 2nd year. So in the cows, you can pay male or female. You can pay male or female. Okay? Yes, okay. And then it says, once you reach 40, you give a musinna. What's a musinna?
2-year-old.
Yes, a 2-year-old cow. So once you have 40 cows, you give a 2-year-old cow in zakat. And you give 2 1-year-old cows when you reach 60. and it's pretty simple. After that, you know, it's ongoing. Okay. Okay. Okay, after that, sheep. Okay, let's go into sheep inshallah ta'ala. Abu Shujā رحمه الله says, فصل وأول نصاب الغنم 40 وفيها شاة جذعة من الضأن أو ثنية من المعز وفي 121 شاتان وفي 201 3 شياه وفي 400 4 شياه ثم في كل 100 شاة.
The minimum number of sheep and goats is 40, on which the obligatory zakat is 1 shah, Jatha'ah, sheep, or 1 thaniya, goat. On 121, thaniya, or 1 thaniya, goat. On 121, there are 2 shah, on 201, 3, on 404. After that, on every multiple of 100, 1 shah.
Okay. So Shah is the name of the sheep, basically. Okay. So regarding sheep, okay, there's 1 sheep that you need to give once you reach 40. Under 40, you don't need to give any sheep until you reach 120 sheep. From 40 to 120 sheep, all you need is 1. So if you have 119, you need to give 1 sheep in zakat only. 118, 1 sheep in zakat only. Once you reach, okay, once you go above 120, then you need to give 2 sheep in zakat. Now, in zakat here, you need to give a female sheep. You need to give a female sheep. And once you reach 125, you need to give 2 sheep until you reach 200, all you have to give is 2. Once you reach 200 sheep and 201 sheep, you need to give 3 sheep in zakat. And you need to give 4 sheep in zakat once you reach 400. And then every 100 you need to give a sheep in zakat. Okay?
Is what's given always female for sheep?
So in sheep, the original cases we give females. Okay, in cows it doesn't really, it's more flexible, but in sheep, you give females. In camels, it is the detail. You should give female, and if there's no female, you can give a male with certain conditions, basically. Usually females in these types of livestock are more valuable. They're more important. The meat of these animals is more tasty, basically. Okay, so inshallah, the rest of the details of zakat we'll take next class inshallah ta'ala. But these are the details of these basic types of zakat. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.
Answer the question?
Yeah. Why are people killed for not paying zakat and considered disbelievers during the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. People are not killed for not paying zakat. Okay, people are not killed for not paying zakat, and people are not considered disbelievers for not paying zakat. Nowhere in the four madahib will you see this. Okay, so this is a misunderstanding. What happened at the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is that there were groups of people who decided not to pay zakat. So when the Imam wanted to take zakat from them, they raised their swords and their weapons up to fight against them. And they said, we'll only pay zakat to the Prophet ﷺ. If an individual decides not to pay zakat, it doesn't take them out of Islam, but it's a sin, and the Imam can take zakat from them if he wants. So what happened at the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was that people were agreeing to stop one of the pillars of Islam altogether, to change the religion basically. That's what happened. That's why Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu needed to force this in a moderate way, meaning that he would use the power that he had to stop people changing the religion and making up their own religion, so that Islam continues in its way. Okay, just want to clarify regarding paper money. Does that mean you have the option to pay zakat by trading it as a trade good or under gold and silver? So it's better if you have money in your bank. If you have, let's say, if we count it according to gold, you have 6,000-7,000 in your bank for a year. If you have money in your bank, it's better to pay zakat, meaning that you give 40% of it in zakat. That is the the most ahwat, the most cautious opinion that we should take, and we shouldn't try not to pay zakat even though money itself is disattached from gold and silver. It's important that we try to pay zakat if we can, inshallah. And that is the fatwa of most of the scholars of this time, that we should pay zakat according to money, and you give a 40th of it, so 2.5% of it you give in zakat. Okay, inshallah, stop here. Sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.
Is that an insult or something? Is that an insult?
The word reads,
It doesn't even have